Hello my dear friends and welcome to my channel. Get yourself comfortable and prepare for some interesting stories. One of them is a story about a woman who doesn't care about OP living in her house because the woman's daughter needs to live there. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I hope you'll enjoy it. As with many folks, I didn't think I had anything to contribute here, but when I actually read the sign on our front door for the first time in a few months, I remembered a good one. My wife and I moved to Mississippi after getting married. She's a native and I'm from out of state. We met online and had the wedding in my hometown. She had a full ride assistantship at Mississippi State, so it didn't make sense for her to give that up. We were fortunate in that our grandfather had an extra property he wasn't using, and he let us stay there rent-free. It's a crap shack in the middle of the woods that was built by an idiot who has no business playing with Legos, much less building an actual structure. But hey, it's free. I can only complain so much. My wife's schedule varies greatly by the day, which saw her alone at the house while I was working when the entitled mother showed up. EM, entitled mother. W, wife. GIL, grandfather-in-law. So my wife is hanging out in the living room doing some work before she has to leave for class when she hears someone drive up. Our house is really out of the way, so we don't get guests. She was going to get her handgun when she sees a slightly older lady walk by the window. Not seeing a threat, she went and answered the door when the knock came. W, can I help you? M, yes, I wanted to talk about renting the place for my daughter. W, oh, sorry, but me and my husband are living here. M, well, my daughter is in college and needs a place to stay. W, well, that's great and all, but like I said, I live here. EM, I was hoping to talk to GIL. W, getting irritated. No, the house isn't for EM. I know him personally, you see, and I wanted to talk to him about renting. W, I don't care if you know him. Your daughter can't stay here. My husband and I live here. What aren't you getting about that? EM, young lady, I'm sure GIL won't appreciate that you're talking to me like this. W, I'm sure my grandfather won't give a darn that I told you your daughter is going to have to find another place to live. EM looked shocked at the mention that GIL is actually my wife's grandfather, and she wasn't some random squatter living in his house. She huffs, turns on her heels, and goes back to her car. My wife goes back inside and uses a sturdy note card to create a sign that is taped to our front door this day. We are not and will not be renting. Management. Why do I feel like this lady doesn't know the GIL personally? Because if she did, she would have called up GIL and asked before she goes to the cabin. Also, I'm pretty sure that she saw this place somewhere, or one of her friends told her and she doesn't have money. My father, who I referred to as my donor, him and my mother had me, and I haven't had the greatest relationship. He wasn't around my whole life until I was 18. He's been drunk most of the time, and there are several situations that have happened where I should have just cut him off, like muddling a drink scene at my college graduation and speeding off in a car. But now that he's older and he's got health issues, he'd convinced me he wanted to try and be a better dad. Didn't last long. At 32 weeks, I went to the hospital because my water broke. They checked for an infection and didn't find one, so the consensus was that it was just spontaneous. I was given 2 medications, one for the baby's lungs and one to intervene with labor. I felt like a complete idiot. Magnesium in that amount can make the body feel really heavy. I wasn't allowed to get up on my own. They put a catheter in me to go pee, etc. Well, one night, my dad called, and my fiancé answered my phone because I was tired and didn't feel like talking. He had called earlier in the day, and we didn't know if I was going to have the baby or not, and he was demanding answers that we didn't have. I'm not sure the exact conversation anymore, but I can still feel the tone. F. Fiancé. Hello? Edie. Entitled Dad. Where is daughter? I tried calling and asking, but she isn't answering. F. Yes. She's in bed. They have her medication. ED. Oh, so she's on meds? F. No. Medication to help. ED. Well, why hasn't anyone told me what's going on? F. We don't have answers. We don't know when the baby's coming. but as soon as we have answers, we will tell you. Fiancé is getting visibly agitated, but trying to keep his cool. Edie. Okay, idiot. We will see. Just to make myself clear, I never told my father he was allowed at the hospital, or I wanted him there while I was giving birth. The next day, he texted me upset that my nurse didn't give him info over the phone because of HIPAA. He was saying he was just going to show up at the hospital, etc. I said no. I didn't know when she was coming, and she's most likely going to be premature, so we couldn't have visitors anyway. One of the responses was, sad face. I really wanted to come see her. I'm probably not telling this well because I was super stressed. But he was pushing to see her and to come to the hospital, and it stressed me out. Clearly, he didn't respect the boundaries I set. No visitors for a premature baby. Like heck, don't you get the hint? She's premature and hooked up to machines. After him talking to me back and forth, him just not getting the hint and throwing a fit, I had to tell my nurses to get security involved and ban him from coming into the hospital. When I got home, while my child was in the hospital still, I had several text messages from him. I decided to try and resolve the issue and politely explain why I was upset. He made excuses. I told him I was disappointed. He didn't respect my boundaries and made a scene over the phone where the nurses could hear and was rude to the nurses. But once again, he made it all about himself. No one checked on my mental health while you were in the hospital. I lost my crap. I'm sorry I didn't think to check on you while my baby was in the NICU. He also told me after I had said I don't want him around her, he's gonna drink. He told me he could still have 1 or 2 drinks, so I cut him off. That wasn't even the end. My grandmother has posted pics of my baby on Facebook without my permission, and they were public. I had to get her to take them down. Apparently she sent pics to my dad as well. One I had sent in confidence. It was of me breastfeeding the baby. You couldn't see much, but baby didn't have a shirt on, and you could see my breast if you knew what you were looking at. Well, this idiot put my baby's pics as his cover photo for all the world to see. And a pic of my niece, who he's never met. That's a long story. I told him to take it down, and that I never gave him those pics for permission. I have since blocked him. I told my brother this to make sure I wasn't overreacting about how I responded in the hospital, but he made a great point. Why would I make you going into premature labor about me? He's since been banned from seeing her. It's better not to have a drunk of a grandfather who's gonna break her heart, and I have to set an example that I won't let others walk all over me. I'm sorry you had to go through that, as well as worrying about your baby in NICU, and worrying about your own self. Glad you decided to cut him from your child's life. Might also be good to set boundaries with grandma who sent him pics and posted on social media. Congratulations on your little one, OP. I hope you're enjoying parenthood. My cousin and her family have a beautiful property. Her mom would babysit me during the summer, so I basically grew up there. There are 3 houses with all her dad's close family living there, which surrounds a big pond. There is a small boat dock, a tennis court, and pavilion, surrounded by forests except for the entrance. It is totally private property, which means that they have big signs at the front of the entrance that says, "No trespassing." There is also another street sign halfway down the street that says, "No trespassing." Her and her family get really annoyed when random people come walking down their property and just ignore the signs. To get to the property, you have to go down sort of a long road that goes past a few buildings. When you first turn onto the road, there is a Wawa. It's a deli shop convenience store that has amazing food and coffee. A small strip mall and an apartment complex. I lived in that complex for about a year, which is when I took this place. Sorry about the long description. I just hope that this will give you a good enough picture of the area. Now on to the story. When I moved into that apartment complex, I asked my cousin if I could walk my dog around her property. She, of course, gave me permission. One day, after I was done walking my dog around the pond, I was leaving through the front gates, which again had the no trespassing signs. I saw this random woman walking with her young daughter down towards the entrance, who I've never seen before. I politely asked if she knew the family who lived here, and she said no. I then pointed to the big sign that said, "Sorry, it says no trespassing." She then gave me an annoyed face and said, "Well, you were just on their property." And I replied, "Yes, I was. And I know the family. I'm related to them, and they gave me permission to go down there." She said, "Well, my daughter wants to go down there. Are you saying she can't explore?" I replied, "If it means that you are trespassing, then yes, I'm saying that you and your daughter can't go exploring there." She finally gave out an annoyed huff and turned to her daughter and said in a very rude tone, "Sorry, honey, this lady won't let us go down there." And they finally turned around and started walking back. I felt like it would have been awkward if I started to walk behind them back to my apartment, so I turned around and just walked my dog around the pond one more time and left after that. The next day I was with my cousin and told her about the entitled mom, and she thanked me. She said how annoyed she gets when random people show up. I can relate because I also have property with no trespassing signs, yet people still walk down it. Honestly, it's probably the most ignored street sign in America. It's just weird to me. How can people just go into private property and not understand why they're asked to leave? Hello, people live there. Would you let someone explore in your backyard? And the audacity to use their daughter as an escape route to get privileges. Oh, so you're going to tell me that I need to push down my daughter's curiosity? Get the heck out of here. So my grandmother, G, collected dolls, and we did it together for years. Then she fell ill with lung cancer and we cared for her at home. I was working 32 hours a week and going to college full time and watching her at night so Mom, M, could rest. We received zero help from my siblings and no help from G's other kids, except an aunt who stayed with her for a week and called us to come back home early from the trip because she couldn't do it, even though she took care of her dead husband's mother and treated her like a queen. Fast forward to my G's passing. The day after G passed, my sister-in-law, SIL, calls me and says, "What are you going to do with G's dolls?" I said that they would be put away for safekeeping for now, because we were in so much pain and I literally felt my heart physically hurting. We were so sad about G dying, because she lived with us the whole time growing up. She then proceeds to tell me I need to let each girl pick one and take care of it, or maybe just give them to the girls who never visited G. Because I was a grown woman, G had left me the dolls. I told her no, and she was beyond livid. The day of the funeral, I pick up the phone as we are literally walking to the door with coats on to leave, and her daughter calls me. Her daughter was about 5 or 6 at the time and could never have even formed to thought of asking and didn't even notice them when she did visit as a baby toddler. She was made to ask me for the dolls. I literally hear my SL in the background feeding her what to say. Hear her say that I would give it to her daughter because I wouldn't tell her no like I did the SIL. I politely told my niece that I wasn't going to do that right now and that they were too young to take care of them anyway, so that would be decided later. Then I asked to speak to the SIL and tell her that it was inappropriate and that she shouldn't have her daughter called because it set her up to be hurt. SIL was still mad because those are expensive dolls and there are too many for you to deserve to keep all of them. This coming from the same woman that then kept her kids away from my parents and ghosted them, and then sent her child over as she neared 18 to ask if my dad was going to put her in his and my mom's will. Really? I was so happy when my brother divorced her after she left a Dear John note on the table. She wanted to experiment basically, because I never showed my oats when I was young. From what I understand, she sowed plenty. They had been married for 17 years. Apparently she married him for our family name and thought that would be rich because my dad drove a Lincoln and had a business, and she thought my brother would inherit everything. Apparently she got tired of waiting. She's just plain entitled, as a parent and as a person in general. What a massive idiot! Even if you weren't racked with grief, it's ridiculous to think that just because you're an adult that you don't deserve those dolls. Adults can and do collect dolls and action figures. The really fancy ones especially are not meant for little children to play with and ruin. But for her to think it's okay to try and manipulate you that way is just disgusting. I'm so sorry about your loss, OP. You didn't deserve to deal with that. Well guys, that's it for today. If you end up enjoying this video, please consider subscribing. If you missed the last episode on the channel, I'm gonna link it right here. The story's about a crazy woman who wants to sue the school for wanting to try and cure her kid. Check this out if you haven't, and I'll see you in my next video.